Hi guys, welcome back to another video. This week we are going to be answering all the questions you had for us on Instagram about our 12 months of travel around Australia.
The first question is, what are a few must-haves for traveling Australia and what couldn't we go without? The first thing that comes to mind for me is a good, comfortable tent. There's a big difference when you're camping every second weekend to actually traveling full-time, going in and out of that tent every single afternoon or night. I believe it's really worthwhile investing in something that's not only comfortable but normally a bit quicker and easier to set up and pack down. As easy as you can make it on yourself is better, because it is going to have to be used basically every night.
The next one that we wouldn't leave without is our fridge. And we've been happy with our fridge. We did do a video more in depth on it, but it's a great size and it's been going basically non-stop since we left, and it fits all of our groceries and drinks. And if we were doing it with an esky or something like that and having to rely on ice, it would be just a lot harder than just plugging in the fridge and sliding it in and out when you need things. It's been absolutely amazing.
And going with the fridge would just be a fairly decent second battery and solar setup. Not necessarily the complicated, setup with lights and stuff everywhere, just something simple. As long as you've got decent backup power and a good solar panel or charge setup, that's going to get you most of what you need really traveling around. Everything else is just dependent on personal setup and what you actually want to do as you travel. If you want to do a fair bit of off-roading or stick to the main roads.
The next question is, would we tow a trailer, like knowing what we know now, if we were to go again? No. I would be happy doing it as we have done this time. There's been so many times that we've gone down to find a camp or down a little track and we need to turn around in this tight little area that is not made to be turned around in, or you have to shoot off a sandy track to let other cars come through if you're going to a beach camp or something like that. If you're going on four-wheel drives, you need to sort of four-wheel drive tracks, you need to sort of try and drop the trailer somewhere, do the track and then loop back to it. We've seen firsthand people that did have it, say with Climbers, it's like a really long four-wheel drive track in Tasmania, and they had to drop their trailer, and then they still, after we finished the track, which was night time, we'd taken all day to do it, they still, with two little babies, had to go all the way back and get their trailer. So I feel like, depending on what you want to do, if you don't want to do any off-roading at all, or go on the beach and things like that, probably would be good. But if you're into anything like that, it's going to be a lot harder to do.
Personally, I wouldn't do it. There's a lot of benefits in towing a trailer. They're all pretty self-explanatory, like setting up your camp and going out exploring in the car and all that sort of stuff. But the way I look at it is, just say you spent $15,000 on a camper trailer or $40,000 on a caravan or whatever amount it is. In the real bad cases where you don't have a trailer or something and you wish you did, say the weather's real bad, you can just pay to stay in a hotel or an Airbnb or something like that. That $15,000 for a trailer will get you a long way in accommodation and stuff. That being said, long term, and if we were older, we'd definitely want something that you can just sort of get out of the elements and stuff. But while we're younger, we're happy not towing. we've got an easy setup and easy pack down, so if the weather's that bad, we can just pack it all down and go, you know, find a hotel or something to stay in.
Yeah, another good thing about not towing is if you're going through towns that you don't know and stuff like that, you don't have to try and find somewhere that you need to fit with your trailer. You can pull into all these car parks, you can pull into, you know, get something from the bakery, or, you know, if you're going to the vets or something like that, you can get into those places where a lot of the times people will try and park these long caravans and things in the most awkward spots, and you know, just getting your shopping and stuff, they have to walk a fair way with all that stuff, so it is good from that perspective as well.
The next question is about avoiding and coping with the rain and staying dry, that sort of stuff. It's really pretty easy. For one, unfortunately at the moment the drought is pretty widespread and everywhere is pretty dry. Even on days where, you know, it does rain, it's normally just a drizzle or a short sort of shower and then it's gone. If we're set up somewhere and it's not too windy, we can just sit under our awning and even put a wall up, and that's perfectly fine. If it's real crappy rain, we can just sort of have a bit more time in the tent. We've got a TV and stuff in there, so if it's just bad weather, we can just go into the tent and chill out for a while.
Yeah, basically the hardest part would be like cooking and stuff like that, and also because you're like camping full time, going and doing stuff when you're in a town, if it's rainy and gloomy, you just don't really feel like, you know, exploring in that weather. But yeah, other than that, it hasn't been too bad. It's just if it's more long-term rain, like set-in rain, it can get a little bit hard to just sort of stay in the confines of the space we have around the car. So the next one is, what sort of issues have we come across, and did we ever doubt like our decision to travel? In our last video we did mention a few of the things, issues that we'd had with like the patrol, like things we'd had to get fixed, and also things that sort of annoyed us a little bit here and there as we travelled. But all in all, there's been no major issues. We've never had like a breakdown or been like stranded somewhere or felt unsafe or run out of money or whatever. So we haven't really had any issues. Doubting ourselves, I think before we left it was a little bit, we weren't really sure like what it was going to be like, and also the first day of our travels was probably the biggest feeling of doubt, just because we'd both very recently like quit our jobs. We had said goodbye to our families, and then that was quite raw. We didn't know when we were going to see them again. People were renting our home and it was just all so new. We didn't really know what to expect. It was a big change. That was probably the most doubt that I've had about the whole thing. It just sort of got better and better from there.
Yeah, I think the only doubt was really before we started traveling or in the first week or so, just because it was new and getting into the swing of things. But it wasn't necessarily doubt, it was just, I guess, nerves. But apart from that, once we got settled into the swing of things and started, you know, realizing how good it was, seeing what we were seeing and doing what we were doing, there's no doubt that we made the right decision to do it now while we're younger and are able to, you know, enjoy it. We had a question about the economy of the car. We mentioned it last week. I think a rough sort of average across the whole trip has been about 14 to 15 litres per 100. In the cooler weather, we've noticed the car uses significantly less, about 12 to 13 litres, and in the real hot weather where the car's working a bit harder, it seems to creep up to about 16, sometimes even 17 litres per 100. but most of the time with a mix of four-wheel driving, highway, around town, all that sort of stuff, it sort of hovers around that 14 to 15 litres per 100.
So there was one about if there's any areas that we've sort of driven past that we wish we'd stopped at. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
I don't think so. Obviously there's places where it might have been good to spend a bit longer there or something, but we generally don't sort of like just hanging around one area too long. Like, we're sort of the type of people, we like to see it, experience it, and then just sort of keep moving on. I don't think I've got any regrets about going past anywhere. No, you could easily say there's a lot of places it'd be nice to spend a couple of extra days or, you know, something there, but nowhere in particular.
Yeah, and we've seen a fair bit, so we've been pretty lucky that way.
Next one was about the patrol, anything we'd change with the setup in regards to gearing, motor, suspension, anything like that. There's nothing I would really change. So in regards to driveline setup, tyres, there's nothing I would change. Obviously if money were no object and that, it'd be nice to have something like a Duramax or something, but really I have my doubts with that stuff. Like, then you're gonna run into a few issues like trying to get parts, and if you need it, I don't know. It's been good sort of having a bit more faith in what we've got. It is an older motor and everything, but in remote areas, you know, you have the confidence that you'd be able to, you know, either get it sorted out yourself or get help from anyone in a small town. The suspension, I'm really glad we spent the money and got King shocks. The roads and stuff we've done over 12 months, like the road from Alice Springs to Fink, a lot of other corrugated country roads, stuff like that, it's all held up really well. Bless you.
Excuse me.
We did a video recently on the tyres. Obviously with the tyres and lift and stuff, you don't really need that much clearance and, you know, mud tyres and stuff, but that's how I like having the car. It has paid off through the trip. Even just some campsites you actually go into can turn into like a four-wheel drive track, and I've never been worried or had a problem getting stuck anywhere because I'm confident in the car, and it is a very capable car.
So the next one was a two-part question. First part being like, what are the major breakages and things that we've had? And we did mention that in last week's video, which was all about our trip. But basically there was sort of just major services, and at the same time that those services were scheduled, there was other things that we had done at the same time, either if it was diagnosed there and we didn't know about it, or we wanted to them to look at and replace certain things, whether it be original patrol parts like handles and seals and things like that, checking things over. We had to get the airbag system and everything replaced, new brakes, all this sort of stuff. So nothing sort of happened where we broke down in the middle of nowhere and had to call NRMA. We've never had a flat tire, never had an issue where there was a breakdown, but it was mainly sort of just keeping in front of it and finding those and addressing those issues when we could, which has worked out pretty well.
The main things we've had in 12 months specific, other than just general services, would be replacing the airbag man rear bags. We got a new panhard rod on the front. We redid the rear brakes with new discs, and I think that's it. And There was a mount for the awning and a bit on the rear water tank that we had to get like the weld touched up. Apart from that, everything's just been general maintenance, like a hose here, you know, a fuse, or, you know, minor stuff in 12 months.
So the second part of that question was, would we do a similar setup again, or would we go with something like a troopy where you can sort of be and cook inside, like out of the weather? That's a really good question, and we've seen and realized as we've been traveling that there's no perfect setup, and there's so many different setups out there. But the whole troopy or indoor sort of space is definitely something worth considering, because it is really nice to have that space outside of the weather, especially when it's like really cold, wet and windy, or all three together. Cooking and stuff outside is hard like that, and just feeling like you can't really escape it if all you have is like a canvas tent. So definitely something that's worth considering, that we would either do what we've done here or get a slide-on canopy with, like, obviously on a ute, like a tong camper or something like that, which is very similar to like a troopy or something, where you can sort of step inside of it, you can sit inside of it, and your bed and everything sort of lifts up out of the top.
We have mentioned it in old videos of ours. That was originally our plan. I originally wanted to get a GU ute, but one thing led to another and we ended up getting a wagon. So if we could go way back to the start, the closest thing I would think is an ideal setup for us, just us in our situation, would be something like a GU ute space cab, with that bit of room behind the seats for, you know, the dog, and maybe another small fridge or something, and a bit of storage inside the cabin, because it does help, especially with a bulldog, being able to have them in an air-conditioned cabin. And then, yeah, as Steph said, something like a tong camper or something on the back that you can actually climb inside and use it as a sort of camper. That'd be the closest thing to an ideal setup for us in our situation. But that being said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with what we've got and how we're making it work.
Yeah, another thing would be if you did have like a slide-on camper or something like that, you could get a campsite, drop it there, like then use your car to go into town or go to a track or something like that. That's one other thing that would be a really good benefit with something that you can remove.
We did have a question there about would we recommend a GQ as a first four-wheel drive daily weekend camp vehicle. I would say it's one of the best options for that. A GQ is my first four-wheel drive, and it's this one right here. They're extremely capable cars, so you can learn a lot with still having a bit of confidence in the car. They're built well, good strong driveline. Especially if you get something like a petrol one, you can get them pretty cheap. Parts are pretty cheap for them. Replacement doors and panels and all that are everywhere and pretty cheap. There was also a part there about what would the first like comfort mods be for them. If in regards to camping, just something like a decent tent or swag or something like that, a fridge and a dual battery. As far as comfort in driving, they're pretty good, being coil all around and stuff anyway. Just probably a good set of shocks and a decent set of tyres, and away you go.
So we've also had a few questions about if we're going to keep travelling, like what our plans are after the 12-month mark, if we're looking to move somewhere else, that sort of thing. So as we were travelling, we have kept in the back of our minds, like what different areas feel like, different towns, what type of things we like in areas, like if we want to be near the coast or inland or whatever. There's been lots of little places that are really nice, and there is definitely an option that we might move somewhere else once we finish our travels. But there's definitely nowhere currently that we have decided that we want to move to.
The other question about what we're doing after 12 months, from the beginning we never had a time set on our travel. We never said we were just going to do 12 months and go home, or you know, be done in 12 months or anything like that. At the moment we're just outside of Perth. We're basically halfway, and it's been 12 months. So we hadn't planned on it, but we're actually going to stop just for a while and do a bit of work in WA. It was always part of something we talked about from the start. If an opportunity came up, we might stop and just do a little bit of work for a few reasons. You know, checking out the area, seeing what it's like, and also topping up our bank account. I've secured a job in WA just to see how we go with that. So we're not locked in really to a certain time frame of how long we're going to work. We're just going to sort of see how it goes and take it as it comes. In the last few months especially, we've sort of realised how hard it can be putting time constraints on things and planning too far ahead. So we're trying to keep more of a open plan. Obviously after we do a bit of work, we do plan on continuing our trip. We still have a lot to see in WA. We still want to do the Gibb River Road and into the top end and all that sort of stuff. So it's definitely not the end of our trip. We just felt now sort of suited. The right opportunity came up for some work, so we're just gonna not try and plan ahead too much and just take it as it comes.
Yeah, and with that sort of comes, if we're not traveling and doing trips here and there, then we're not really going to be able to share any of that type of content. So if we sort of get quiet from here, that's why. And obviously if there is things to share, we will, but we're not just going to try and create content to keep the channel going, because we just wanted to share what we want to share, and if there's nothing there, then yeah, we'll just go quiet for a while. So I suppose that's probably the best time to like thank you guys again for like engaging with everything that we share and like wanting to see what we're doing, and you know, meeting us or like sort of coming up and to say hello and giving us advice if we're in an area and needed a good mechanic or something like that, or recommending places to go. It's been really, really cool. We never really thought we would get to the amount of subscribers and followers that we do have. And yeah, we really do appreciate all the like-minded people that enjoy the stuff we like to share.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a big thank you to everyone that follows us on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. We really didn't think it would ever be as big as it's turned out to be. From the beginning of it all we've really wanted to do is just share a pretty genuine, realistic view at not only traveling Australia, like setting up the car and stuff. A few people, despite what they think, we definitely haven't chased or been sponsored or paid for any crap like that. That's not what we're into. We just enjoy doing it to share with you guys that are interested, like genuinely interested in it. And it's one of the best things is hearing from people and getting messages that like we've inspired them to travel Australia and get out there and, you know, see what's around. So that's really all that we care about. So definitely a big thank you to everyone that supported us along the way.
And if you are thinking about doing it, you can see that, you know, you can make it happen. And just go for it. What's the worst that can happen, really?
Yeah, and with that being said, like, none of the pages or anything are being shut down. Like, we'll still have Facebook and Instagram going, and our YouTube channel will stay up. And
yeah, you can still comment on things. And
yeah, and if we do a trip here and there, or anything on the car, we'll definitely keep you up to date with that sort of stuff. Alright guys, so with all that, thank you very, very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
bye.